Good day everyone, subscribers and first-time viewers alike. Today we're talking about something just as important as insulation or framing, and that's home ventilation. Why you actually need it, why proper ventilation really matters, whether heat recovery makes sense when it's worth it, and most importantly, how we installed a full ventilation system on a very tight budget. That's exactly what we'll cover in this video. There's a lot of debate and confusion around ventilation, and for most homeowners, it's honestly not easy to figure out how all of this works. So in this video, I'll break it down step by step, explain the logic behind the system, and clear up the most common misconceptions. We'll start with the theory, and in the second part, I'll show you the actual installation and our low-cost DIY solution. So why do you even need ventilation in a house? Every single day we inhale and exhale somewhere between 15 and 20,000 times. Indoor air can be over 100 times more polluted than outdoor air. And the key thing here is that we spend up to 90% of our time indoors. Inside the house, we're constantly surrounded by odors, gases, combustion byproducts, dust, and fine particles. Carbon dioxide levels go up. In poorly ventilated spaces, viruses and bacteria spread more easily, mold starts to form, and windows fog up. And if you have any kind of open flame, carbon monoxide becomes a real risk. The simplest solution is opening a window, but along with fresh air, you also get dust, noise, and insects. And even after 3 hours of airing out the room, that effect disappears in about 30 minutes. So if you want a healthy indoor climate and consistently clean air, you need a proper ventilation system. A basic ventilation system consists of two parts: air supply and exhaust. Fresh air comes in through supply valves, which are installed in living spaces. Exhaust air is removed from what we call dirty rooms, in our case the bathroom and the kitchen. Looking at our floor plan, we installed two supply valves in the bedrooms. Fresh air enters there, flows through the living room, and exits through the kitchen and bathroom, carrying excess moisture, odors, and CO2 with it. And by the way, most of that excess moisture actually comes from us breathing. If you think it's insignificant, try this simple experiment. Weigh yourself before bed and again in the morning. Depending on conditions, your weight will be 100 to 600 grams lower. That's moisture leaving your body overnight through breathing. Now let's talk about passive air supply. This is a wall-mounted supply valve that works due to the negative pressure created by the exhaust system. Its efficiency directly depends on how stable the exhaust is. We chose a wall supply valve because it offers decent airflow, around 30 to 60 cubic meters per hour, along with good noise insulation and air filtration. There are also window-mounted supply valves, but you need to understand that their airflow is extremely limited. They simply can't deliver the required volume of fresh air. You'd get the same result by cracking a window open, so there's really no point. For proper ventilation volume, a wall-mounted supply valve is the way to go. The design itself is very simple and inexpensive. It's basically a pipe with internal insulation. The pipe comes longer than needed and is cut to match your wall thickness. On the outside, there's a grill with an insect screen. On the inside, there's a filter that traps dust and helps reduce street noise. The valve also allows you to adjust airflow. We chose the KIV 125 model. If this model isn't available in your city or country, you can choose an alternative. These valves are typically installed near a window at about 2 meters high. It's also recommended to place them on the wall opposite the door so fresh air can travel across the entire room on its way to the exhaust. One important detail: a closed door blocks airflow from the room. To avoid that, you either need a 1.5 centimeter gap under the door or a transfer grill installed in the door or partition. This allows air to pass while maintaining sound insulation. Now, exhaust ventilation. Once fresh air enters the house and does its job, it needs to be removed. We chose a forced exhaust system installed in the bathroom and kitchen. Ready-made solutions cost an absurd amount of money, so we decided to build our own. The system is based on standard sewer pipes assembled in a specific way. Its job is to remove polluted air at the required volume. It works both as natural draft and with mechanical assistance. After finishing the interior, exhaust fans are installed and connected to a smart home system. Automated scenarios control when the fans turn on and off, depending on the season and other factors. This way, we can meet indoor air quality standards very precisely. And the smart home setup itself costs next to nothing, less than $15, with seasonal scenarios and voice control from a smartphone. I'll cover the smart home system in a separate video once we get to the electrical work, so make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it. Also follow us on social media. I post progress updates there much earlier than on YouTube. Now let's talk about heat recovery. What is it? Essentially, it's returning part of the heat from outgoing air to incoming air. A heat recovery unit is basically a heat exchanger installed in a supply and exhaust ventilation system. Inside the unit, air streams don't mix, but heat is transferred from the exhaust air to the fresh air. This can reduce heating costs. If that's not enough, you can add a heater or AC unit. The downside is cost. A full heat recovery system runs around $2,000. And the important thing to note is that it really makes sense only in houses larger than 200 square meters. In smaller homes, investing in better insulation is cheaper and far more effective. There are also compact recovery units that work through a single wall opening. Air enters and exits through the same point. These are only useful in very specific situations, like a small enclosed room. For an entire house, they don't make much sense. If air enters and exits at the same point, overall air exchange efficiency is questionable. We couldn't find proper gas analyzer tests for these units, so for us, heat recovery just isn't justified. It's a good technology, but only for large homes and very flexible budgets. Now let's cover common mistakes in ventilation planning. One of the biggest ones is designing only exhaust without proper air supply. Without supply air, ventilation simply won't work. The basic principle is simple. Air should move from clean rooms to dirty ones, from bedrooms and living areas toward kitchens and bathrooms. Vent pipe diameters must allow the required airflow, and there must be a path for air to move between rooms. A common question is, how did people live in log houses for centuries without ventilation? The answer is simple. Those houses had plenty of uncontrolled air leaks, between logs, through old windows, and from crawl spaces, and the stove acted as natural exhaust. A proper house should hold air tightly with no openings to the outside except through controlled ventilation. To check air tightness, there's a blower door test. It pressurizes or depressurizes the house to identify leaks and evaluate vapor barrier quality. We'll definitely do this test once the vapor barrier is complete. Now let's move on to our budget exhaust system build. We used 160 millimeters and 110 millimeter sewer pipes with insulation between them. This reduces heat loss in winter and minimizes condensation. All examples in this video are taken from my own house project. The build is currently documented on my Russian language channel, and the same series will be released on this channel as well. First, we cut the 160 millimeter T lengthwise to insert the 110 millimeter T. The gap between them is filled with expanding foam. To prevent deformation, we clamp the outer pipe. We center the inner pipe with screws, foam it, let it cure, then remove the screws. we insert the intake pipe. Ours was 1.5 meters long and had 20 millimeters insulation. Then the outer 160 millimeters pipe goes on top. The same process is repeated for the outlet pipe, which in our case was 3 meters long, but it can be extended as much as needed. The third opening gets a reducer and a capped drain for condensation. A cap goes on top, and that's it. The exhaust unit is ready. For installation, we drill holes through the insulated wall using a hole saw according to the design. The vapor barrier is cut in a star pattern, the pipe is inserted, and the joint is sealed with polyurethane sealant. Excess pipe is trimmed after finishing. Outside, the pipe is secured with clamps, angled downward by 2 to 3 degrees so condensation drains outside, not into the house. Caps are installed and the pipes are painted to match the exterior. For this stage, we bought pipes, insulation, clamps, foam, caps, and 2 supply valves. Total cost was about $166 and it took 1 workday. Overall, total construction cost so far is $5,639. That's it for today. Subscribe if you're interested in our goal of building a house with our own hands on a minimal budget. Don't forget to hit the bell so YouTube actually shows you new videos. If you have constructive criticism or additions, leave a comment. I read and reply to all of them. If you liked the video, hit like. If not, feel free to dislike. In the next videos, I'll break down each construction stage, timelines, and costs.